That was quick. I didn't expect it to connect so quickly. Welcome to Mystery Mondays. I forgot what I was going to say. Something right off the bat about, well, I'm running late for one thing. It's not technically Monday anymore. It's already Tuesday. But, I've been babysitting my grandson and working on getting all this information together. So yes, welcome to Mystery Mondays. Thank you for viewing, subscribing, and sharing my vlogs and other videos. So, first I have a few comments about some cases I've discussed previously. And then I said, sadly, there is no update on Kylen, Schulte, and Crystal Turner's case, but then I remembered about the article that I was going to inform you guys about here a while back, in case you didn't know about it, about another report about the creeper guy, and the last time the police now believe that they were actually seen, and also an audio recording of some gunshots. I remembered about that information, so I will be informing you about that right now. So, really sad case, you know, Kylen and Crystal, known as Kai Cry. It has been over 8 months since the sweet, kind couple were found murdered in Moab, Utah, in the Arches National Park. I believe it was in the park, near LaSalle Loop Road, like just off of it. So I did find, as I said, an article a while back that stated a woman who knew them said she had seen them at a gas station. I was thinking that she worked there, but apparently she was just at the gas station. Or perhaps she did work there and they just didn't say that. I don't know for sure. But anyway, this was the morning of August the 14th, 2021. So they were not murdered on the 13th, which it was my understanding that they left the bar, I guess, at 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. I keep thinking it was midnight, because I had seen something at one point that said that they went and hung out at a friend's house until about midnight, but apparently that was found to not be true. But anyway, previously they were last known to have been seen leaving a pub in Moab at 9 o'clock or 9:30 p.m. on the 13th of August. So this woman saw them early in the morning on August 14th, which was the Saturday. They were on the motorcycle and talking about, like, bragging about how Kylen was learning to drive the motorcycle finally. They also mentioned the creepy guy again to her, and told her that they hadn't moved their camp yet, but they were apparently planning to move their camp because he said that they were trespassing on his turf. He called the area they were camped in, quote, my turf, end quote, and, quote, my space, end quote. These terms may remind a viewer of someone they know. Hopefully. Authorities do know their times of death to be, or they're estimating, they're thinking that this audio recording of gunshots was when they got shot, and I'm thinking maybe it's a recording from the wedding that was nearby that weekend. But so they are thinking that their time of death is 11:35 a.m. on August 14th, 2021, because they do have an audio recording of shots fired at that time. It seems like there was something else that I was going to say about that I just thought of, and now it's gone. But if you have any information on their case, please contact the Grand County, Utah Sheriff's Office at 435-259-8115, or contact private investigator Jason K. Jensen at 801-759-2248. And I just remembered that I need to go back still and put the information in last week's vlog about the phone numbers and all of that. I am still without a laptop, unfortunately, so I was going to try to work on trying to learn how to edit some stuff for my videos, because I have a lot of I have a lot of pictures for the case that I'm talking about tonight, the main case I'm talking about, and I would like to be able to put some of them in there, and I would also, of course, like to be able to include missing posters that have pictures of the people that are missing, or the people that the cases are about. So that being said, there is no update at all that I can find for Jose Calderon's case. His was one of the cases that I mentioned last week that I was hoping to update people on. But, of course, continue to keep your eye out for that silver 2018 Chevy Equinox with the Florida tag KBY space E67, in my opinion, aka K by 67. And any dash cam or surveillance footage you may have in of this vehicle. Try that again. I'm so sorry. I'm a night owl, but when I'm tired and not feeling the greatest, I tend to make mistakes. We're all human, right? So keep an eye out for that vehicle, as I said, and any dash cam or surveillance footage you may have of this vehicle between Rhode Island and North Carolina or in either state. I don't know the specific towns for sure, except I do know that one of the towns is Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and another has just escaped me. It's the town that he's from in Rhode Island. It was there and then I lost it. So surveillance or dash cam footage from or within either of those states, of course, Rhode Island or North Carolina, of that vehicle with those Florida tags on January 9th, 2022, or the two preceding days, which of course would have been January 7th or 8th, or of course those nights, especially in the Yadkin Valley overhang area of the Appalachian Trail along the Blue Ridge Parkway near Blowing Rock, North Carolina. And I believe it, whenever they were talking about him traveling with these guys in the Silver Equinox, there were two guys, I believe, that he traveled with that were in it. And I believe that it also stated that they had stayed in a hotel, maybe a microtel in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. I could be mistaken about that. I might be thinking about another case, but I'm pretty sure that's what it said. So, if you have any information at all concerning Josue's case, please contact the FBI in Charlotte, North Carolina at 704-672-6100. Use their tip line at 800-CALL-FBI, or, the numbers for that are 800-225-5324. Now, a lot of these numbers, depending on where you live, you will need to put a 1 in front of. The state that I live in, you're no longer required to do that, unless it's an international call. Or contact the National Park Service tip line at 888-653-0009. It is my understanding the NPS number can be called or texted. There is also the silent witness number for the NPS, and that's the National Park Service. I don't recall if I said that a while ago or not, but yes, that's the National Park Service. And their silent witness number is 928-638-7840. And I'm pretty sure that you can make an anonymous tip at the other tip line as well, but this is the one that is used exclusively for silent witnesses. The case, I was going to do 2 cases tonight, so I'm going to explain this at the start, and I'm also going to mention it at the end. I was going to do 2 cases tonight, and I know my explaining stuff sometimes goes longer than talking about the other case might have, but I was going to discuss 2 cases tonight in addition to the updates on cases, even though I really like to just try and concentrate on one at a time. I started out doing like 5 of the ones in the national parks, or maybe even more, and then it's like, no, that's too much. I need to just try and do 1 case a week, which I had started trying to do, but it's a lot of research a lot of times, and I like to try and update people, and then people bring cases to my attention, like the one about Lena Chapin and Gary, I almost said Gary Marshall, Gary McCullough, and then this one about Jason Dubois, which is the second part of his, is what I'm going to be talking about tonight. And I still have more information that I was not able to get together for this one, so I will also be talking about him on May the 9th. I will not be talking about him next week unless there's a big update, because I will be doing updates, of course, on the ones that I've already discussed, as I always try to do. And I did check the cold cases within the national parks to see if there were any updates to any of those cases, and there may be some updates, but none of the other ones have been resolved or considered solved at this point. So, that being said, next Monday, May the 2nd, so hard to believe it's already going to be May, I will be discussing the case of Armand B. Johnson, along with the updates to cases I've already discussed. I was going to talk about his case, at least introduce it tonight, and as I said, I've had information coming in from a source concerning Jason Dubois' case, which is awesome. It's excellent. I'd kind of still like to call the police and make sure whether the case is considered to be closed or not. Anyway, that being said, Armand's case, I found that there is actually quite a bit of information out there concerning his case. It may all just be repeats of the exact same story. I don't know for sure. In several instances where I have found stuff like that, like newspaper articles, other blogs, and news stories and stuff such as that, in some of the cases about stuff like that, I have found that there's a little bit of information that's not available on other things. So it's like if you scan over all of them, you're like, oh, well, wait, the other one didn't say this, so it might be important to include that information, which might include something about surveillance video, or, the vehicle that I just noticed my bathroom doors. But the vehicle in Josue's case, if I didn't keep reading over stuff and looking for updated articles and updated information, I would not have found out that they found out that he had been with these two guys in this silver 2018 Chevy Equinox with the Florida tags K by 67, like KBY space E67. So that's why, I like to keep the stuff updated. But so tonight I am only going to be talking about Jason Dubois' case, besides the updates that I just did, of course, for the other cases that I had already discussed. So, the case I'll be discussing tonight, as I said, is that of Jason Dubois. I began telling the story of his death. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Whew. I need more caffeine. But yes, the case I'll be discussing tonight is that of Jason Dubois. I began telling the story of the death of Jason Dubois last Monday, and I also spoke about the disappearance of Jason Learl then, and I have not seen any significant updates on his case, I will say. So I will be discussing the rest of Jason Dubois' information, but, well, not really the rest of it. I'll be discussing more of it tonight. There's even more, like I have seen several pictures that I would like to look at more, and the source is like letting me know how accurate the information that I am reporting is and making corrections if necessary. So I will do that on May the 9th, the Monday after next. Because I had already told someone that I was going to be doing Armand B. Johnson's case last week and then this week, and now I have had to explain to them that I'm not going to be doing it until next week. So, that being said, but yes, I am discussing most of the additional information pertaining to Jason Dubois' case tonight, or bright and early this morning. He passed away at the age of 45 on December the 10th, 2021 in Springdale, Arkansas. There was an inconsistency about that fact even, to be honest. So, And as I said, next week I will discuss Armand V. Johnson's case only. Especially I can't read my own writing. But I will discuss Armand V. Johnson's case only next week, unless there are updates to other cases. So, back to Jason Dubois. He had been riding ATVs with a friend on the train track in Springdale, Arkansas, which is extremely dangerous and illegal. You should not do it. It is stated that authorities believe he drove on the shoulder or embankment and then drove off the bridge, hit the concrete abutment with his tire, which caused him to flip and land backwards to the way he had been heading. As he flipped, he turned entirely perpendicular to the ground and hit the top of his head, landing on his side. Now, perpendicular is like, straight up and down to the ground. His four-wheeler didn't flip, but went out approximately 30 feet forward and to the side of the bridge. So he is said to have been going approximately 30 miles per hour in fourth gear when this accident happened. Oh yes, that's what I was going to say. So this bridge does have, as I suspected it probably did, 3 abutments. The abutments are kind of odd because there's the track, and then right underneath the track, this is why I need to be able to put pictures in here, right underneath the track is a railroad tie that goes the same way as the abutment, and then there's the concrete abutment. So as I'm looking at this picture, I'm going, well, I suppose possibly maybe he could have hit the top of his head on the railroad tie and then hit it on the concrete abutment, but I don't know. I don't see like how they're saying this happened. If the four-wheeler went out from under him, went like forward or whatever, I don't really know that he would have flipped up into the air. Like I have only ridden a four-wheeler, I think, once in my life, so I don't really know a whole lot about them. So I'm kind of relying on, need some tips from some of y'all that do ride ATVs, especially four-wheelers. But like, so they're saying, like, I don't know if they're saying that he went off the side of the bridge because there's that first abutment and there's railroad ties that step down, like they're stepped down a little ways, one at one level and then they go down a little bit. And I don't see really how he would have gone, how he could have not hit the first abutment and then hit the second one is part of the deal. So I'm guessing like there's the track, and then there's a little space that has another little sort of rail looking thing, but it's not part of the rail, like a guide type thing, I guess. And I'm thinking maybe they're thinking that he was riding off to the side of the rail, which makes no sense that he would have been doing that, especially since he rode on the tracks all the time and knew that that bridge was there. But I'm thinking maybe that's what they're thinking happened. And the best that I can think is, since his friend had gotten stuck before where the bridge was, maybe he did see the friend off to the side of the track. And you know how when you look a direction, you tend to drive that direction. So my thought maybe is that he saw the friend and slowed down some and turned his head to look and see what was going on with the friend, and therefore didn't realize exactly where he was and did drive off the side of the bridge and then hit that second abutment, which he obviously did because there's a black tire mark on that abutment. I will try to learn how to edit and be able to get the pictures in there so you guys can see it. But my deal is, even if that happened, like, I don't know if he flew off of the four-wheeler, would he not, like, the four-wheeler, they said, kept going, and he flew up into the air. Would he not have, like, gone forward, like, over the handlebars of it? Or, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, generally when someone has a motorcycle accident, but it might be because they're going faster, they tend to go forward, like, over the handlebars, from what I understand. I could be wrong about that, but to me it's really interesting that they're saying that that's what happened, because I don't know a lot about four-wheelers and ATVs and such as that. But and I also I did take forensics classes. I took crime scene processing, but I am no pro at it, so I don't know how bodies really necessarily react in accidents such as that. So, excuse me. One person who found him after the incident said his hoodie, the hat on his hoodie, was pulled up and tied around his neck, like how you tie your hoodie string around your neck, and his cap was lying near him, but he wasn't wearing it, it was lying near him. Yet his cap has a tear in it that matches his head injuries and is covered in blood, so he was clearly wearing it when his head was hit. Um, also, excuse me, also he always carried a camo backpack with him when he rode his ATV, and I forgot I wrote clear to the edge. Sorry. So he always had a camo backpack with him when he rode his ATV, and it was underneath him when he was found. But one of his friends grabbed it and hid it with the other four-wheeler, which I actually have seen pictures of now, and the person was like, I'm going to hide the four-wheeler in the woods so no one will see it and whatnot, and the other, but the four-wheeler was not hidden in the woods. It was parked actually like right before the woods, just beyond a railroad type bridge type thing, path type deal that he had made to help get the four-wheeler off from the embankment, possibly the track itself, down into the woods. And I've been told that he said that he was actually stuck in the woods, not on the track. He was stuck in the woods before where the bridge was. And then it's like, what was he doing in the woods? Well, the pictures show like there are track marks along the side on the embankment. My thought is perhaps since it was dark and he was not used to riding on the tracks in this specific area, at least, perhaps he veered off of the track and got onto the embankment and somehow ended up down in the woods. And then he stated that his four-wheeler ran out of gas, and that's why he was trying to hide it. So it actually wasn't hidden very well, as I said. So I figure that both the four-wheeler and backpack were recovered by the police. At the time that I initially wrote this, I did not know whether it was or not, and I don't know if the police were told that he grabbed the backpack and hid it over there, or if they just thought it was the other guy's backpack, if you know what I mean. But him pulling the backpack, I actually didn't really find the complete other account. I didn't write down again the account that I had done previously. I said additionally previously about how his body was lying, but it was on his side, outstretched, with his arms straight out in front of him and crossed at the wrist. Was how they said that he was laying. And so later I'll be talking about the other way that it is said that he was laying. And I think possibly the person yanking the backpack out from under him could account for the differences in how the friend who was there when he was found, it said that he was laying, and how the railroad, I was examiner, the railroad investigator said that he was laying whenever he saw him. And also medics had come possibly before the investigator saw him, and I don't even know for a fact that he was still there when the railroad investigator went, or if the railroad investigator saw pictures that were taken by the police. I don't know that for sure. So yeah, that could account for the difference in how people said that he was lying, in my personal opinion. A friend of Jason's did not notice any blood on the ground underneath Jason, and he I'm sorry, his hat, glasses, and one of his earbuds that was still in his ear had blood on them. And so it was a head injury, so I don't know that there would have been blood underneath of him from a head injury. And that possibly just means that perhaps maybe the only injury he had was a head injury, but it's said that the bridge was between 30 and 50 feet up. I've seen a picture of the bridge from like the parking lot of the apartments that it's behind, or from the area of the apartments that it's behind now. And it looks to me like it's fairly high up there, but I don't know a lot about, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell really in pictures, but I do know more now than I did without the pictures, so I appreciate having them. There was a large rock near his body, but that didn't cause his head injury. As I said a while ago, the concrete abutment, the police believe, caused his head injury when he flipped upside down after his four-wheeler went off the embankment before the bridge, most likely. And now I'm thinking perhaps that he actually went off the bridge itself instead of off the side of the embankment. I have been told that he has been known to go around the bridge, down the embankment around the bridge, but he would have gone further, like he would have possibly gone at about the point where the tracks are that the other four-wheeler made, and gone gradually and like further off to the left and then crossed, instead of going like right next to the bridge, because that's just very dangerous, and he knew that. But as I said, since his friend was off in the woods, and possibly stuck, maybe he was looking to see what was going on with the friend because he saw his light over there, or heard him trying to start the four-wheeler or something, and he's like, what's going on over there? So he wasn't paying attention and ran off the bridge because he didn't even know that he was to the bridge yet, maybe. Because distractions, you know, cause all sorts of bad things to happen. He died from a blunt force trauma to his head. It is said that his head injuries is actually, I believe, what, well, I haven't seen the coroner's report, of course, but I believe that's what the railroad investigator called them, as well as one of the coroners. So it is said that his head injuries appeared to be two overlapping wounds, like he hit something twice in the same spot, or something hit him twice in the same spot. His wound was on the very top of his head, which seems kind of odd, but if it did cause him to flip completely perpendicular to the ground, then that would have been like, if he just totally did a 180 in the air, then that probably most likely would have been what he would have hit, and it would have hit the very top of his head, I suppose. A clip from a gun was found at the scene, but I have no information concerning who it belonged to, other than that it did not belong to Jason Dubois. I think it'd be kind of interesting if it belonged to the friend, because the friend is said to be a creeper guy, pretty much. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. He used a headlamp like miners and cavers use instead of his headlights, because he didn't like attracting attention to himself. Didn't want people knowing that he was riding on the train tracks, you know. I feel this made it more difficult to see, but I don't know for sure. And I think that I had mentioned that in the other video, and my source said that using the headlamp instead of the headlights possibly did make it more difficult to see. That night it was dark, but it was dark but clear and calm, very cold, and if there was a moon out at all, like a visible moon, it would have provided extra light to the head, in addition to the headlamp. And some interesting information that I found out this evening was, or yesterday evening actually, technically, I guess, was that his headlamp was not found on his head. It was found nearby and had no blood on it. I find that to be odd since he always wore it, unless the force of the accident possibly caused it to come off of his head. And I don't know how possible that is because usually they're pretty, like they're strapped around your head. So they're usually pretty secure. A tablet was also found at the scene that had a completely busted screen. There was no battery in it when it was found, but some of his acquaintances claimed they found the battery later. Odds are they turned the battery and probably the tablet itself over to the police. I don't know for sure. I don't know what they would be able to get from a totally completely smashed tablet. I mean, very possibly the hard drive was still good in it though. So the only other visible injuries that Jason had were some small scrapes and scratches on the very top of his forehead, like up along this area right here. And as I said, I have seen pictures of him. He had like, I think a couple of scrape looking things here and maybe a scratch here and then a couple of scrapes over here, like just the very, very top of his forehead right there. I'm not real sure exactly what would cause that, but it's odd that that's the only other injuries that he seemed to have. Of course, he was fully clothed. I believe he was, it was wintertime. He was probably wearing long sleeves. It was December the 9th. So no information was released concerning the condition of Jason's body other than the condition of his head, including his face and ears. And I saw, his face and ears in the picture, and there was some blood in one of his ears, which I'm guessing is the one that had the earbud in it that had blood on it. So, but like the police didn't say, or like they didn't actually ever do an autopsy, so there's no information about whether his arms were broken, his legs were broken, if he had any injuries to his chest, if his back was broken, if his pelvis was broken, if his ankles were broken, anything along that line. The only information that there is that he had the head injuries on the very, very top of his head. So one of Jason's friends called the head coroner of Washington County and informed him that Jason's death what seemed suspicious. I actually worded it that it had been labeled suspicious by the police, and he gave them details of Jason Dubois' death. But I don't know that he actually told them it had been labeled suspicious, but he definitely, he was like, this guy's death is suspicious. So this coroner, the head coroner of Washington County, is said to have ordered an autopsy on the body and made a request to stop the cremation. But Jason's body was already cremated, or it was still cremated. I don't know. I shouldn't say it was already cremated, but yeah. He did an order to stop the cremation, but Jason's body still ended up getting cremated. Therefore, no autopsy was ever performed on him. This coroner also stated that it looked like Jason had been hit in the head twice in the same spot. The coroner who pronounced his death classified it as an accident, as did the lead detective on the case, who initially said that it was suspicious. Initially, he had it labeled as a suspicious death. The lead investigator did, lead detective. From text that his friend sent to people that he knows, it seemed like the friend he was riding four-wheelers with felt guilty and thought he would go to jail. And as I said, I don't know why they didn't at least charge him with leaving the scene of an accident, but really the only person that knows whether or not he was there when it happened is him, unless he told other people, right? Honestly, well, yeah, honestly, I'm a little surprised they didn't at least charge him with leaving the scene of an accident, though no one other than him, as I just got through saying, knows for sure whether he knew Jason had wrecked or not, assuming what happened was even a wreck. I thought that I had already said that. I might be a little too tired. Maybe I should have waited till the morning to do this, but I like to try to do them as close to the date and time as I'm planning to do them as I can. But I was like working on this all day, well, the past several days actually. So, also concerning the friend he was riding four-wheelers with and whether he knew about the accident or not, you know. I have seen the pictures now. I saw where the bridge is at. I saw where the other four-wheeler is off in the woods to the side of the track. So as close as the other four-wheeler was to where Jason and his four-wheeler were found, his friend should have seen him going off the bridge or heard him wreck. His friend's four-wheeler was actually stuck in the woods, according to the friend. But why was he in the woods? And another thing, like I know he says that he was on the embankment, and I'm guessing that it wasn't working properly when he was on the embankment because he made a railroad tie bridge that he used to push the four-wheeler or drive the four-wheeler possibly into the woods. And my thought is he must have been stuck before he did that, or he wouldn't have had to build the bridge thingy to try and get into the woods. I'm thinking that most likely he was pushing it at that point rather than driving it. But it does seem to be facing out of the woods instead of like into the woods. So it's not really facing like it was coming from the track at all, but like maybe it was coming through the woods, which is really strange. But I don't know how he pushed it or moved it or whatever he did after it was stuck, or maybe like I don't know. From what I understand, investigators say that to them it did not appear to be stuck in the woods, but it was definitely out of gas. And Jason and his friend had filled. I mentioned that I wasn't sure about this or where it happened or how it happened or whatever, but they had filled the four-wheelers with gas before they left Jason's home to go four-wheeling. So they should have had plenty of fuel in them, just for the record. So here is the information from the railroad report that the inspector filled out. It is called a casualty record. The railroad name is Arkansas and Missouri Railroad Company. The incident number is 120921. The date was 12/9/2019. Oh, I see. The incident number is the date. Exactly. I thought that sounded familiar. I should have realized that when I read it the way I read it, right? Anyway, the time, according to the railroad report record, was 9:30 p.m. However, it is said by someone who knows him that he was known to still be alive at that time. This person saw him and spoke to him between 10:15 and 10:30 p.m. that night. Possibly probably between like 10 and 10:30 p.m. that night. The state it occurred in was Arkansas. The county was Washington County, which I think I've already mentioned both of those. The type of person who had the casualty was a trespasser, though the report actually says trespassers, which makes it sound like the casualty involved more than one person, right? Even though only one person had the casualty, if that makes sense. It involved more than one person because it says trespassers instead of trespasser. Though I believe everything else in the report is singular. His age was 45, and his injury is stated to have been a bruise or contusion on his skull. Not sure that's how I'd classify it. And as I said, I've seen pictures of it. I am no professional, so I mean, I know that a contusion is a deep bruise, and it is saying of the skull, it's not saying of the head. So if your skull has a contusion or a bruise, and the contusion being a deep bruise, I'm not definitely sure that that would kill you, especially killing you instantly. And from the amount of blood that I heard there was, I would say that his skull was most likely cracked, not just contused. So I mean, I know that the railroad examiner or railroad investigator person most likely did not perform an autopsy of any type. They probably, like, I don't even know if they saw his actual body or if they just looked at the pictures that the police had taken. I think I said that a while ago. So anyway, this is turning out to be far longer than I thought it would be, so it's a good thing I decided not to talk about the other case. Of course, I always end up thinking of other stuff that I haven't written down and discussing that too, so you know. The circumstances of the casualty are mostly recorded in the narrative section. The cause is the cause is listed as simply trespassing. According to the location section, his death happened on or along a main branch and involved no railroad equipment either on or off the track. Where says other location, because it didn't happen on the tracks, I suppose, or at a station or anything along that line. It happened at the bridge, but the casualty actually happened under the bridge, like to the side of it, on the ground, you know, near the bridge. He was found on the ground to the left side, down below the bridge. So on the ground to the left side, down below the bridge. The narrative reads, okay, read my writing. The narrative reads, quote, "Trespasser was riding a four-wheeler down the right-of-way. Struck a railroad bridge abutment, sustained fatal head injuries," end quote, and then it lists the coordinates where it occurred. So, as I said, that is said in the singular, like there was only one trespasser, but maybe that's because, as I stated, only one of them did die in the accident. So there is speculation that the police didn't fully investigate his death because they want the crime rates in Springdale to seem lower than they actually are, and there was an election going on at the time that his accident happened. It was also holiday time. I truly hope that that is not the case. I hope that it was fully investigated. Viewers and subscribers who ride ATVs or know people who do, here's a question for you all. If you ride your four-wheeler down an embankment or off the side of a bridge, you ride it down an embankment before a bridge or off the side of a bridge, and go off into like a creek or something, please don't try this in order to find out. It is extremely dangerous. Just use what you know from riding your ATVs, especially four-wheelers, or being around people who do ride them. Okay? So, if you're going down an embankment and go off near a bridge, or you go off the edge of a bridge and have a wreck, and you're going approximately 30 miles per hour, would your four-wheeler land on its side intact except for possibly the muffler, and none of the plastic break. Is that possible? I mean, do you think that is? And this is what supposedly happened with Jason Dubois' four-wheeler. And perhaps it is exactly what happened, but maybe it's not. Could the scene have been staged by someone to look like it was an accident? I've seen pictures and such, and thinking about what like the police said had happened and everything. I feel that it is possible that it was just an accident, but it really does seem very suspicious. Since Jason obviously had his cap on his head when he suffered his head injuries, how did his cap end up next to him when authorities say he died instantly? And as I said a while ago, his friend is said to have said that he heard people moaning that, oh, actually, that's what I'm about to say. I haven't said it yet. See, I keep doing that tonight. I don't know why. So, as I was about to say, that I thought I had already said, because I'm too tired apparently. Also, Jason's friend said he saw Jason ride past him over the bridge. I mentioned this last week in the first part about this, and watched him disappear down the track. He said he saw Jason ride past him, like he flew past him and went over the bridge, and he watched him until he disappeared down the track. Clearly, that didn't happen because Jason was found to the left of the bridge. The most he did was maybe go to about the second abutment of the bridge, right? He said he heard moaning near the bridge that he said he heard moaning near the bridge, which he thought was possibly people having sex. Or actually, he thought it was people having sex. So possibly that was Jason moaning, which would very sadly mean that he did not die instantly, but suffered, which would just be awful. I thought I said more there about that, but I guess I didn't. Maybe I say that later. The friend who was riding with Jason had told a few friends sometime prior to Jason's death that he had two friends who died in four-wheeler accidents, and he was with them when they died. ATVs can be very dangerous, but it's probably fairly rare for the same individual to be present at the scene of 3 different four-wheeler accidents their friends died in. I think that would be extremely rare, but I don't know, because they are pretty dangerous, or they can be, especially if you are an adrenaline junkie or something. I would think and hope, though, that that is very rare. It is also said this man can be very creepy, which I mentioned a little bit ago, which of course makes me think of poor Crystal Turner and Kylen Schulte, who were murdered in Moab, Utah last August between the 13th and 18th, which it is now believed occurred on August the 14th, 2021. Hopefully this guy was not in Moab, Utah around that time, and the gun clip that was found at the scene of Jason's death was not from the gun that killed them. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that it was. I'm saying hopefully it isn't, right? And I still, okay. Seriously, I still don't know. I thought that there was something else I had added to that. Like that it's very hard to believe that his friend did not see him go off the bridge. I might have already said this earlier, actually. It's hard to believe that he didn't see him go off. I guess I did when I was talking about where the four-wheeler actually was, but it's hard to believe that he did not see him go off the side of the bridge or hear the four-wheeler wreck, or when he heard the moaning be like, hopefully nothing's wrong with Jason, and start calling out to him to make sure he was okay, you know. But it's also possible he was down in the woods and he couldn't see him real clearly, and the furthest he could see him was the tip of the bridge, that he made it sound like he saw him for further than the bridge, you know. So I don't know for sure. And from the pictures that I saw of the four-wheeler, the right front inner rim is bent, and it looks like quite a bit of the metal on the bottom of the four-wheeler is also scratched up. It's still laying on its side in the picture, so you can't see the entire four-wheeler, but it does appear that none of the plastic is broken, though the four-wheelers and three-wheelers that I rode on, or three-wheelers more than four-wheelers, but I'm pretty sure that they didn't, the I can't even think of what they're called, the things that cover the wheels on them, I'm pretty sure were metal, not plastic. So I don't know how much plastic the four-wheelers have on them. Maybe, well, I don't know for sure. I need to get my laptop working or go to the college near my house and look at the pictures on there so I can get a better view of the pictures. I'm running up to about an hour, which I'm almost done with this episode. I apologize that these are almost always so long, guys. I really do. But it seems that there are inconsistencies concerning his death. Is it possible an overly busy police department with Christmas around the corner rushed their investigation, or perhaps relied too much on the initial coroner's report concerning what happened and what killed him, even though the police originally classified his death as suspicious? The railroad investigator reports differences in the scene from what one of the people who was there when his body was found reported. The investigator said Jason hit the this is pretty much what the police said, this part right here. He or she said that Jason hit the concrete abutment, likely flipped a couple of times. They only said one time, but he says a couple of times. And the four-wheeler went forward off to the left about 50 feet away from Jason, who, after flipping a couple of times, hit his head on the same abutment that the four-wheeler tire had hit before landing face down in the creek bed. So he said he landed face down, whereas this other person said he was laying on his side, and the police said he was laying on his side. But as I said, well, actually, if the police said he was laying on his side, then the backpack wouldn't have had anything to do with that. But possibly the railroad investigator did not see him until after the medics had got there or something, or did not even go to the scene and saw the pictures and thought he appeared to be laying face down, right? But yeah, he said that he landed face down in the creek bed. He said Jason was wearing the baseball cap, which makes sense with the tear in his cap and the head injuries being consistent with one another. He also said Jason's hoodie, the hat to his hoodie, was not pulled up and tied. I mentioned earlier that one of his friends who had found him said that the hoodie was pulled up and tied. The hat of the hoodie was pulled up and tied. And now, there. Perhaps this person who was one of his friends that found him, perhaps he was in shock. From what I have heard, he was pretty traumatized. So perhaps he was in shock and couldn't recall exactly what he did see. But I sort of think that would be hard to forget. I think it would, like, the picture would be ingrained in your mind for quite some time, possibly. But I also know that when people go into shock, they can forget stuff, or their mind can play tricks on them and such. So, could Jason's ball cap have stayed on his head if he landed face down in the creek? Also, wouldn't he, um, wouldn't his head, okay, also, sorry, also, wouldn't he have had more facial injuries if he landed face down in a creek than just the little scratches and possibly cuts at the top, very, very top of his forehead up here? If he landed face down in a creek, a bunch of rocks, wouldn't he have had cuts and abrasions all over his face? I would think. And this case is listed, from my understanding, as closed and is now considered an incident, but I'm pretty sure that law enforcement calls everything that happens an incident because I know they file incident reports on calls and occurrences. The initial coroner, well, the only coroner that actually looked at him, at his body, classified it as an accident. So I'm thinking the police still have it classified as an accident. And I'm about to conclude the video, but as I said earlier, I do have some additional information concerning Jason Dubois' case, and I have seen several pictures of him, his belongings, and the accident scene, including where the other four-wheeler was parked, as I mentioned some about. I ran out of time for prepping this vlog, so I will be discussing that additional information and any edits that I need to do to this one, from corrections that the person who has given me some information and is watching the vlogs might feel I need to, corrections that I need to make. I lost my place again. I am so sorry. I need to start leaving more gaps and making arrows and stuff, like I did when I was going to college. Anyway, I will be discussing the additional information, most likely, as I said earlier, 2 Mondays from now, which will be May the 9th. On Monday, May 2nd, I will be discussing updates to cases I have discussed previously, if there are any, and the case of Armand B. Johnson, who was found murdered in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park on April 13th, 2005. See, I had received a message on Facebook saying that I should do at least an introduction to more detail about Armand's case, and I believe that I received that. I want to say it was around April the 6th, maybe. And so I'm thinking, now that I know that he was found on April the 13th, 2005, the person's thought was that I could do it the Monday before that fell, which I'm not sure. I'm trying to think what day of the week April 13th was on now. I don't remember for sure. Hang on, I can figure this out. The 21st was on a Thursday, the 20th was on a Wednesday, the 13th was on a Wednesday, so it would have been like the 11th. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a few days before that the person told me that I should do more information on his case, give more information about it. And I feel like now that they said that, because, and this person lives in Hawaii, because they knew that the anniversary of his death, or at least him being found, was coming up, and they thought that that would be a good time to do it, and I wish that I had done that. I need to make me a big wall calendar of the dates that incidents happened, so I can try to follow up on them on those dates if they've not been resolved. So as I said, I planned to introduce his case more tonight, but found there seems to actually be a lot of information concerning his case, unlike the case of Jason Dubois, which you can only find his obituary online, and if you know where to look for it, you can find the railroad report, which I have actually searched for under the incident number and not been able to find myself. So make sure you watch next Monday's episode if you have. Oh, I'm sorry. No. I worded. Anyway, not very much information on Jason Dubois' case at all, as I said. Make sure you watch next Monday's episode, and if you have any information about Jason Dubois' case, legitimate information that is, please notify the Springdale, Arkansas Police Department of what you know. Their contact number is 479-751-4542. And I said in my mind as I read that earlier, the ages of the two Jasons. Until next time, everyone, have a great whatever time of night or day it is in your part of the world. Stay safe and stay positive. And I know those of you who have missing loved ones out there, or loved ones who have passed away and their cases have not been resolved, it is very difficult for you to have a great whatever time of night or day it is in your part of the world. But all we can do is all we can do, and do the best that you can. Peace out, peeps. No.